That day was very emotional.
I will never forget that.
The Jonesboro tornado, 1 year later. Sponsored by Gamble Home Furnishings and Southern Roofing and Renovation.
1 year ago, the unthinkable happened. A large tornado formed as we watched live on TV.
Speechless and shocked, we saw that tornado carve a path through the heart of Jonesboro.
It's been 1 year, and despite a raging pandemic, it's been a year of rebuilding. It's been a year of growth. The area's hardest hit coming back stronger.
And it's that pandemic that was credited early on with how fortunate we were. No one died because of the tornado.
Meteorologist Brian McCormick takes a look at that storm and the path that shocked Region 8.
It was a warm and wet March with record highs set across the state. The outlook called for isolated severe storms that Saturday. By 4 in the afternoon, the Region 8 storm team was monitoring a tornado-warned supercell in Jackson County. As reports of storm damage poured in, meteorologists put Jonesboro on high alert.
If you're in Jonesboro, I know the sirens probably aren't going off. I would still treat this extremely seriously.
Aaron Castleberry then lays eyes on the storm.
There's a tornado coming out the storm right in town. It's in Jonesboro right now.
Oh, there it is right there. Zoom in. Can you zoom in on that? Guys, we have a confirmed tornado in Jonesboro. So if you're in the Jonesboro city limits, get into your safe spot.
From there, the twister roared northeast, its 120-mile-an-hour wind peeling off roofs and collapsing walls of dozens of homes and businesses.
Holy crap. So this is moving towards Red Wolf. If you know anybody on Red Wolf right now, they are in danger.
The tornado reached its largest and strongest point as it laid waste to the Jonesboro Municipal Airport.
This is kind of the east way around Jonesboro. So you go to Farville Curve, you turn left towards Gamble.
The Region 8 storm team kept tracking the tornado as it crossed Highway 49 and tore through Brooklyn before eventually lifting off the ground.
We need everybody in Carriage Hills all the way to Finch to be in your tornado safe spot. Now,
further northeast between Paragould and Cardwell, the twister touched down again and dealt significant damage to homes and businesses.
And then on the east side of Paragould, that tornado is still on the ground, moving towards Cardwell, the intersection of 412, 139.
Survivors emerged from safety to an apocalyptic wasteland, 600 yards across and 12 miles long.
I thought I saw death, but the good Lord said he wasn't ready for me to come.
We saw stuff flying up, and we saw flashes of fire.
It felt like the house lifted up and then slammed back down.
Hard to fathom just seeing those images right here in Region 8.
It was the most powerful to strike Jonesboro since May 27, 1973.
This drone video shows us the neighborhood behind the mall, a sky view of the destruction.
Tonight, you're hearing from a woman who had 3 homes damaged in this neighborhood. But as Amanda Hansen explains, through it all, she found the silver lining.
Do you ever feel like life is much bigger than all of us?
I want to say it was such an ugly, scary, horrible time, but at the same time, it was such a beautiful, peaceful time.
For Connie Antilli, this cross at the entrance of her neighborhood is a humbling reminder.
Our lives, we realized that things are really not that important, that it was your friends and your relationship with God.
It takes her back to that evening 1 year ago. Oh my gosh!
We talk about the tornado and we can still tear up over it. It was very scary.
A day she'll remember forever.
At 5 o'clock on the dot, things changed our life drastically.
Connie 2 miles away from home when the phone rang, her daughter at home on the other end.
And she was saying, Mom, I mean, it's like heading right at us. It's heading right at the mall. I start praying over the phone, and then I hear her scream, glass breaking, and the phone went dead. And that was the last I knew.
Okay, So this is the closet. I still get nervous talking about it.
Meanwhile, her daughter Jennifer was bracing for a direct hit.
And I had to hold the closet door because it just was pulling it.
Connie, frantic, trying to get home, probably the longest car ride of her life. A ride that would normally take minutes, took an hour and a half, with her finally jumping out of the car on foot.
I didn't know what I was going to find.
Her neighborhood behind the mall, unrecognizable.
As we approached the neighborhood and we saw the devastation firsthand, I did not know what I was going to walk up to when we got home.
Then, standing at her front door, her daughter.
What was it like for you to see your daughter's face?
Like this still. It was very scary to hear the panic in her voice and to know that I was helpless.
Needless to say, she hugged her daughter a little bit tighter that night, but emotions almost had to be put aside for the first 24 hours.
Calling insurance companies, calling adjusters, you don't feel like doing that, but you have to do it.
If you think COVID's been tough, imagine having 3 houses hit by a tornado and living out of boxes for a year.
They repaired one, and that was the one we moved into while awaiting the repair of our home. You know, we're missing some trees, but we kind of got a facelift out of it.
Walking through the neighborhood now, you can still find debris high up in the trees, but Connie thinks back about how her life has changed.
It was an awakening, you know, just a real growth time, and you know, it just changed my outlook on a lot of things, but I think for the better.
And she's reminded of that every time she comes and goes.
We were so humbled by it all.
In this new video, we're seeing that tornado from the ground as it crossed Red Wolf Boulevard in Highland. This camera is pointed south, and you can see that debris just seconds before the twister hit the mall.
I need everybody.
Speaking of the mall, take a look at this dash cam video from Jonesboro Police.
Hey, do y'all have any injuries?
Sergeant Jason Chester responded to Target before he found out the roof collapsed at Best Buy. And when he pulled up,
where?
He got out, worked with first responders, and helped set the staging area at the mall. In the days after the tornado, Prospect Road was one of the busiest spots in this city.
Meteorologist Zach Holder shows us how that neighborhood is bouncing back.
It was moving fast, and before you know it, it was at Valley View. Now it's at Jonesboro.
In just minutes on the ground, the Jonesboro tornado's wind peaked up to 150 miles per hour and quickly crossed Prospect Road.
Don't touch this wire, guys. This could be hot.
Hours before the tornado, Shanna and Jeff Watson were enjoying their Saturday. Their niece called them, warning them of a storm, so they turned on the TV.
When we saw the footage of it coming down, the funnel actually coming down and over there around the Cheddar's area, and Ryan, I believe, mentioned that it looks like it's heading in the direction of Brooklyn, and is when we knew we had to do something.
On the other side of Prospect, the tornado had already arrived at Melody Weathers' house. The 32-week pregnant single mom took cover with her 2-year-old son less than a mile away from the Watsons' home. As the Watsons waited for the tornado to arrive, Shanna started to hear something.
I said, no, that's just not possible. We're fixing to get hit by a tornado. No one's out in this weather. And of course,
So
she
I
ran to the door.
And sure enough, there was this sweet little lady from our church.
They hurried to the bathroom as debris started to hit their house.
We knelt there on the floor, all 3 of us, and put our arms around each other and began to pray.
Back across Prospect, the tornado had already passed Melody Weathers' house.
Rain was dripping through, ceiling was off, curtains were like in between the roofing and all of that, so we walked outside and the whole neighborhood joined at that point. There were so many beeping noises, like it's insane like that. I can still hear that noise in the back of my head.
Soon the Watsons and the woman they rescued emerged from their damaged home.
Then I looked out our kitchen door and a wall was gone. I mean, Linda was standing at our front door and that tree had fell right across there. So if my wife wouldn't have heard her at the front door, we may have had the only casualty.
A year later, houses on Prospect Road are in different states of repair. Some have been finished, some are in the process of being finished, and others, like this one, still show the exposed foundation and even tile left by the Jonesboro tornado. As for the Watsons and Melanie, they decided to rebuild their homes on the original sites.
The house before I had just never really felt like home. This house did.
And to make it feel even more like home, Melody made sure a storm shelter was part of the rebuild plans.
We've rebuilt, we're back, and it's gonna be good now.
And one of the last neighborhoods to take a direct hit from the tornado was Bridger Place.
Aaron Castleberry spoke to a couple who had been living in their home less than a year and married less than a year before the storm struck.
It was a regular Saturday.
Ben and Diane Bizzle were newlyweds enjoying a normal Saturday.
Sunny outside and a few clouds. It continued to get cloudier as the day went on. And
Ben said he knew storms were coming.
But this is the South and it was springtime, so thunderstorms are common.
I wasn't paying any attention to the weather.
Like many, they were not worried.
Having grown up all my life in the South, having seen tornadoes before, you get accustomed to them.
Then the alert started.
That's when we turned on the weather.
And Diane saw the funnel cloud form live on TV.
That's when I freaked out.
They ran to the bathroom with their 4 dogs.
I didn't think you were about to get hit by a tornado.
But then they started hearing the debris fall in their home come apart.
See, and that's where I don't remember. I know like the windows and stuff broke, and I felt like a pressure change, like the wind coming underneath the door, but that's really all I remember from when it actually hit our house.
And just like that, it was over.
Everything just settled down again and got quiet, and we opened the bathroom door and we could see daylight.
The storm destroyed their new home, and at first, family and friends didn't believe them when they called.
I'm kind of a jokester, so people were, oh, Ben, no, I'm not kidding, we lost the house.
The Bizzle said the community really rallied around each other after the storm.
There were local churches and so forth out making sure that the people doing the cleanup had plenty of food and water.
And for the newlyweds,
we had to rebuild from the ground up.
Rebuilding their first home together began.
The fun aspect was really customizing it to what we wanted.
But another disaster, the pandemic, caused challenges.
The hard part was just the amount of time that it took.
And Diane wanting to isolate due to COVID-19.
Yeah, and normally when people are building a house, they've spent time, thinking about everything beforehand and making decisions beforehand. And
now, 1 year later, they've moved back into their home and hope they will never experience this again. Some homes are still in the rebuilding process, but homes like the Bizzles have been rebuilt and life is returning back to normal at Bridger Place.
A regional hub for shopping gone.
It was a building and then it wasn't. It was just rubble.
And now, with demolition beginning, why there's good news for them all.
And rebuilding while dealing with new storm anxiety, how one man is trying to fall back in love with storms. The mall at Turtle Creek was one of the most visibly damaged buildings, right in the heart of Jonesboro. The tornado barreled through the middle, and it's a constant reminder of that twister's destruction.
Just this month, crews began demolition on part of the building. Katie Woodall spoke with former employees as they reflect on the past year.
I would have never in a million years imagined a tornado coming across the middle of Jonesboro.
This is going back down towards the mall.
Let alone the place that I work at, let alone the only day that I work.
But that's exactly what happened. The mall at Turtle Creek took a direct hit on March 28, 2020.
This is just decimated. It looks like something hit from the inside out.
The mall was mostly closed due to the pandemic, but exterior shops like Best Buy were still open for business.
And that was the only time that I was thankful for COVID, because had it not been, there's no telling what would have happened.
Cody Pate was working when the tornado hit.
Next thing I know, it's just going right over the top of us, and it was just insane.
The employees and some customers moved to an interior break room.
Outside of that room we were in, an entire wall had collapsed, and most of the ceiling down with it.
Damon Wallace, another employee stuck in the mall during the tornado.
We didn't hear the wall collapsing. We heard wind.
The tornado moved from the mall in a matter of minutes, leaving a path of destruction.
We were expecting to see some damage, but we were not expecting to go out and see that the store was gone.
It was a building and then it wasn't. It was just rubble.
Thankfully, nobody was killed.
I remember my first thought being something like, how is everyone okay?
But the effects of living through the tornado still linger for some.
I mean, I literally remember it like it was yesterday.
It was definitely a bit taxing on my mental health. Tornadoes now feature a lot more in my nightmares.
And the reminder of that day still very present.
The mall at Turtle Creek starting demolition on the middle part of the mall on March 15th. Now, I did reach out to General Manager Rick Jackson multiple times to see if he could talk about the progress, with no response. The city telling me they're making sure the mall communicates with them.
Not only is it an eyesore, it's a danger to our community, but also it impedes our ability for economic development and jobs.
Mayor Harold Copenhaver came into office after the tornado hit. At the time, little progress had been made.
That's the frustrating part. It's all about having communication, and we should have had open communication way before then.
One of his first acts as mayor, issuing a 30-day notice ordering cleanup to begin. Copenhaver tells me the current phase of demolition will clean from the center of the mall out.
They're looking at hopefully completing this by mid-June or first part of July.
The next phase focuses on damage from the food court down to Dillard's.
Their decision would have to be made to either destroy that or to rebuild that.
Mayor Copenhaver did a walkthrough of the mall before demolition began. He said there was good news in that visit.
We have already had some of our departments, engineering, in there to look at it as well, and they agreed. So mainly it's just a roof structure damage.
The tornado first touched down along Caraway Road, tearing through homes and businesses.
Journey Taylor spoke with one man who sought shelter inside one of those buildings and survived.
My dad is a meteorologist, so I've grown up with storms my whole life.
But John Smith admits there was something different about the March 28 tornado. Despite years of chasing storms with his dad, he decided to take cover inside his workplace.
There's these two trees that were blocking my view, but I could just tell, I was like, it's very creepy. And then all of a sudden you can see the wind pick up.
John made a run for the middle of the auto body shop.
Oh my God, come on, Chelsea, come on.
With his dog running alongside him. They made it to a safe place just in time.
As soon as he said that, the tornado hit the shop, I was kind of disbelief. Like, he's just, we just left there, it was perfect.
Michael Streeter owns German Auto Tech. Not only is he John's boss, he's also his uncle. John and his dog, Chelsea, survived the tornado's wrath, but the shop suffered significant damage. Everything was exposed, and a billboard toppled on top of the roof.
We definitely lost $100,000 easily.
Fortunately, Michael had just purchased a building a few blocks away 3 months earlier.
Friends and family showed up and helped us get moving that night because we couldn't secure the building.
Not only did the shop change, so did John and the way he views storms. Have you ever dealt with anxiety?
Probably a little bit. You know how some people have their anxieties about stuff, but this is the most anxiety I've had about anything, for sure.
He says the tornado siren test every Thursday gives him flashbacks. As for his dog, Chelsea,
she had extreme anxiety and nearly died, and she has to take anti-anxiety medicine during thunderstorms now.
As they navigate these new feelings, they do have something to look forward to.
I'm looking to get the new building back going. I never doubted that we're not going to get through it. I never did doubt that we're going to be back over there one day.
After 8 years on Caraway Road, the family plans to rebuild bigger and better. As for John,
I'm just going to kind of work on falling back in love with storms like I used to be, just enjoying them.
Right across the road, Gateway Tire is getting close to reopening. The tornado leveled their building, forcing them to a temporary location a few blocks away. It only has 6 bays. When they move back to their main building, they will have 29 full bays. Work is expected to be done later this year. And next door, Magic Touch. After a couple of months of waiting last year, the cleaners has begun rebuilding, telling us they could be open as early as Christmas, if not for sure at the beginning of the year.
The March 28th tornado didn't just hit Jonesboro.
Brooklyn was also in its path. Here's video from last year after the tornado went through the Farville curve. You can see the damage it did at Gamble's Furniture, who lost around $7 million in inventory. Even today, places in Brooklyn are still recovering. One business was forced to close its doors for good.
The 2 businesses and the farm shops and some of the homes on the east side of the tracks was probably somewhere around $20 million in damage, if not more. And to have that much damage, that much destruction, and not have no deaths is just, it's a miracle. Just honestly a miracle.
But just like Jonesboro, the community came together to pick up the pieces. While crews worked to clean debris, city leaders worked to learn how to make their city safer. Some problems they had involved traffic and communication. Powerful moments in the last year. We'll take a look at how the community became Jonesboro strong. Through this turmoil, we saw a lot of good from people.
Our very own community coming together and helping each other in their time of need. We leave you tonight with this look back.
We are so lucky that, we're not lives lost.
But I thank God for him. He come to get me out of there.
I stood behind him and hold the door until it blew over.
Started pulling people out and going house to house to make sure everybody was okay.
There's going to be somebody there for you, and the community will be there for you.
There's always somebody coming by offering water, food.
He said, "Thank you very much for rescuing us."
It's just really amazing how many people are just saying, "Hey, I just need to go help my friend."
This material stuff, as long as you're alive, that's it. You ain't, everything else can be replaced. You can't replace your life.